Enemy target spotted. Permission to fire.
Game over.
All right, check this out. So every time I want to go to the mail, I, get ready. I grab my keys to grab the mail, and right before I go out, there's always this street theater right in front of the mailbox. Where there's a group of people just gathered around in front of the mailbox just to prevent and block and get in the way and just kind of slow you down and to do the directed speech conversations with you that are not wanted. But I can kind of show you guys here when I zoom in right here, see. And he's got a red golf cart, of course, and I'm not going to sit here all day, but I just wanted to show you guys that, I can go down and walk towards the mailbox right over here, right at that corner where this guy's sitting. And, they're on golf carts, red golf carts, having a great old conversation, just staring at my place. The guy right there, he's staring at my place, you know what I mean? He just keeps looking up here, but I'm way back. I'm zoomed in, if you notice. I'm way back from the actual window. So, but they just sit out here and do this and block and stop and get in the way and make sure that I see their red golf carts. Oh, as soon as I start talking about it, you guys want to get away. Oh, where are you going? Oh, no more fun. No more fun. Wow. There's that other golf cart. So why did she go all the way around that loop like that? That is the police officer's mother. So weird, that the police officer's mother was sitting here in front of the mailbox. As soon as I said I wanted to get up and go get the mail, grab my keys, all of a sudden these people congregate in front of the mailbox, talk for a while, stare up my window for a while, and, then zip off, and again, a white car going by. They know I'm looking out the window, but I'm just saying, you go down to the mailbox, you try to get the mail, and they congregate, they line up, block, stop, get in the way, make stupid comments to you. And since I didn't go out, they decided to break off because I'm waiting, and then that lady, the cop's mother, just drives around on her golf cart over here, going this way and around. There's no reason to go this way and around, really. I mean, she could have just turned around right over here, right there, and just turned around and gone back out the way she came, but she went all the way around. So, but that's what they do. A lot of street theater, a lot of fun times where they just get in the way of you doing the average everyday thing. You're going to get the mail, you'll get blocked, stop, and it's not bad to have conversations with people. It's just the directed speech and them repeating back to you what you say in private and snickering about it and thinking it's getting funny and being vicious and hostile and making weird comments where you're just like, where's this coming from? You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I hope you break your leg on your skateboard. It's like, okay, thank you. Thank you. Is that a figure of speech, or are you just, are you really telling me to break my leg? You know what I mean? Because they make it, it's the way they present it. It's the way they present it. Anyway. I just saw a golf cart going over here. Anyway. That's about it, guys. I just wanted to talk about this really quick, and you see the white cars going by. That was weird. Trunk is open, buddy. But they go, and, I can just look out the window all day, and if I sit here and just look out the window, I'll have nothing but red and white cars going by. like on the main road out here, just red, white, red, white, red, white. That's what they do to me. And just the red golf cart. And so I was expecting mail, and I was going to go check my mail right down here. But when I go to do that, there are 2 red golf carts, 1 white golf cart, and one of the red golf carts broke off this way. And you know, they just sit there in front of the mailbox having a grand old conversation for, you know, a really long time. And I just wanted to go out and get my mail. But see, in order to get my mail, I have to go through them. You see, here's another white car. In order to get my mail, I have to go through them. Okay? And that's what I don't like. The obstacle that they make of themselves at the convenient, perfect time every time you go to maneuver and make a decision and take action. There they are running intercepts on you and just being in your way, you know, so that you have to ask them to move or get out of the way. I'm going to check my mail now. Can you please move over? You know, like they just always try to get in your way to just, you know, stifle you and make you have to interact with them and engage with them. And then the small talk that's scripted and prepackaged talk, you know, basically gets done to you. And you're just like, dude, you know, I'm not a fake. I'm not pretend. I'm not inauthentic. I'm a real deal, born in a world that's basically, you know, just full of deception and people acting and performing, but I'm not like that. So I don't really fit in, you know, because I'm not a pretender. You know what I mean? And we know what these pretenders are all about, what they do, what they think, how they think. So I just wanted to say, guys, it is wild times with the things they do. And I was just showing you an example of when I try to go and get the mail, what happens. As soon as I make the decision to commit and grab the keys, I look out the window, and then all of a sudden this red golf carts swarm the mailbox, and they have like a full-blown, you know, happy-go-lucky conversation, like, you know, for like 15, 20, 30 minutes, just slowing you down, I'm just saying, because you don't want to go outside when they're there because you have to get through them. And then they'll talk to you and drag the energy out of you and suck the energy out of you because that's what they do. They're not like giving you anything good. They're only negative, only hostile, only, you know, ugly, only some weird, out of place, misplaced comment, you know, comes. Again, a red car. You could just see it go by right there. You see, if I just stand here and look out my window, all you see is white and red cars. That's the only cars you see go by. They know I'm looking out the window, neural remote monitoring and many other platforms. I know they're capable of doing this. And we have shown a lot of proof behind that. But I just am saying, dude, we're being targeted hardcore in America. Don't come to America because it's not what you think. They are targeting people hardcore and using energy weapons and all sorts of different techniques and methods to break you. Love you guys. So really, guys, for, you know, the last 25 years, but even when I was a child and was very young, I was always being put in the middle through high level manipulation and deceit based on the inferiorities and the inferiority complex and the insecurity of a person who did not develop or grow, a person that was very infantile and needed to demonstrate their superiority even when, you know, guys, when, you know, somebody's competing with you and you don't even know it, you know, like for most of your life. And there's all this sabotage and undermining and breakdown and collapse and really a mess that the covert malignant narcissist wants to transfer onto us and make us suffer the consequences of things they do because it pleases them. That is this constant need to parentify us before we were even adults, but just to put the adult level decisions and responsibility onto us
the consequences of those choices and the neglect, of course, and the fact that they were never really present. They were there, but they weren't there. They were never emotionally available and did not know how to properly relate to external objects. And so it was all fake. It was all a performance on their part. It was all an act. And there were many roles that this person would shift into. And as well, you guys know that it is diabolical to take on one role or identity and then to steal and hijack somebody else's words and to mimic and mirror and to copy and blend in that way like a chameleon. But, they let you know what they're doing as they steal, things that most people that are normal don't think about, like your words, your thoughts, your statements, your clothes, your identity as a whole, and then seek to eliminate you because they don't want people to know what they're doing and that their words are not authentic. They're not coming from them. They're stolen. They're hijacked. And we see this on every level with the narcissist. But the narcissist in our lives and just the narcissistic society that we live in of, self is God and, do what thou will is the whole of the law. I mean, that's the rule of the land, basically, in America. If it feels good, just do it. There's so much pragmatism, which is dangerous, I feel. It's not wisdom. You know what I mean? Just if it works, then do it. Like, we don't know if it's good for us or not, just because it works. Okay, so there's all these mental fallacies. And that's what happens when a society is dumbed down and when a society is chemically assaulted, whether it's the food, the water, the medicine. Most Americans are on like 7 different medications. And 40% of Americans or more are on some sort of antipsychotropic medication. And, it's just terrible to see the sickness and how they mock, how they stick out the lip and shake the head, so to speak, when you tell them the truth. And, you're just irritating to those that are asleep, that want to keep eating the bad food and, keep doing the same old thing, and then they wonder why later on they get sick or have health issues and can't connect the dots ever. Okay. So they can never connect the dots. But, I was going to talk about the psychological tactics that narcissists and our stalkers do. And believe me, the local sheriff's office is trained in these matters under the different types of laws that have been passed and the different types of programs that are in place. So it's all about non-touch torture and getting near you, but, hiding the abuse so that nobody else can really detect it or see it. And when you complain about the constant pressure and harassment and just them being around you all the time doing negative things, it's going to make you look crazy, because who would organize and coordinate and do all these things together in a continual way to somebody for years? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it doesn't seem realistic, like, when a targeted individual complains about, going to another state, moving all over the place, and it still starts up and the same pattern of behavior just keeps happening no matter what. And, but usually there are informants and rats in your family that are undermining you and lying to your face, and they have convinced themselves that they're saviors and heroes, and they can't reason with you because they have decided that you're mentally ill. And of course, when you were young, your spiritual gifts were already present, and, many of us, we've had encounters with entities and the shadow people when we were young, and because of the darkness and the demonic stuff that our family was open to and brought in upon, all of us, my family, my mom and dad, were ignorant of spiritual things and thought it was a myth. It was, just a hoax, that all these things in this invisible realm just don't exist, right? But I'm the one at a young age that had to contend and battle with, and they, would single me out in the house. I remember being awake one night and looking down the stairs, and it seemed to be always when I would sit at the top of the stairs and just sit on the stairs and look down the stairs, there was a long hallway and it would just be pitch black and dark, but I'm awake. And, seeing these shadow people form at the end of the hall and then start running at you, trying to paralyze you, even when you're awake. So, and then just, reaching around when you're on the couch, you can still hear the TV on in the background and you're leaning back in the recliner and your eyes might be closed, but you're not asleep because you can hear the commercial in the background. And then all of a sudden something reaches over and grabs your face, grabs your mouth like this, grabs your face and starts suffocating you with the strength of like 20 men, and then, so these violent engagements of these violent spirits that are very real and that many of us have had to battle even from a young age because of the irresponsibility of our parents, our family, and being spiritually ignorant and arrogant. They never blamed themselves and thought, maybe I shouldn't have this Ouija board in the house. Maybe I shouldn't do this or that because it has a consequence. And of course, when that consequence came, they just transferred the blame onto us as the scapegoat. We deserve it. They didn't love us enough to change it or to fix it or to guard us, to protect us. They just said, you deserve it. You know what I mean? Because they were in competition. Their insecurity is what they lived by their whole entire life. So they only live to protect that. Insecurity at any cost, at any expense. They don't want to change it and acknowledge it in humility. This is who you really are. This is what you really think. How petty, how infantile, how immature, how punitive. These are the characteristics of our perps and those that are narcissistic, covert, malignant, sadistic type people. They're not like you and me. Trust me. No matter how much you reason with them or beg or plead or cry tears, they will not stop or relent, and they get satisfaction off of your pain and misery and sorrow and suffering and seek to try to keep you in that open-ended, ongoing pain. And so the help becomes them taking advantage of the vulnerability to take you deeper and make more of a breakdown in your life, to cause more dependency, to have to, come under more of their control. That's the help that they say that they're giving us. You know what I'm saying? And they go around to everybody else bragging like they're so great and they've done so much. And they're this martyr and victim who has sacrificed so much. They have slandered us, lied about us, left us for dead, alienated every family member from us our whole lives, and kept insisting we're mentally ill, just driving this narrative so that they would never be exposed and so that the truth would never come out. This competition game, this comparing and competing that is done over the resources, over that which is common and ordinary for a person to be able to take care of themselves and survive. And they went after that. They went after the resources and our autonomy, anything that would amount to our individuality and our development and shaping up as a person, as an individual, with our own identity. They didn't want that. They didn't want us to separate because we were their fuel and they had cast us into a role. And then when we didn't fit that role, that's when the abuse started happening. The lies, the slander, the putting you in the middle, the sacrificing you and your standing and the things you value, the things you love, the things you're attached to, and deliberately breaking those things down to watch you hurt, to watch you react bad, to watch you in sorrow and suffering, because they feel that way about themselves inwardly. So all they can do is project that inward hell that is in them onto you. And these people, they just really love misery. And so they pass that along any way they can because they feel that they need to share it, and you need to bear it. Instead of changing, they just do shameful behavior and double down on the very thing that they should be repenting of, the thing that they should be humbling themselves and realizing like how dark and how wicked and how secretive and deceitful and how cunning and how predatory that many of our family members have been in secret, hiding the abuse and pretending that they are concerned, that they just love us so much. That's why they have to take away our choices. That's why they have to try to pretend in this narrative that they had to step in because you're too mentally ill to take care of yourself. You're just imagining things. I can't believe John is at it again saying that I'm a narcissist when he's the narcissist. Don't you understand that? So it's this role reversal manipulation that's played 24/7, guys. And they are slandering you 24/7 to third parties. And that's why the people that you meet after, some time of these people spending time with the one that's the main root of the slander campaign against you, you start to notice the change in behavior of those that this person has been in contact with. At first, they love you, and those third parties treat you like a normal human being, and they have no cause or reason to disparage of you. But after they spend time with the covert, malignant narcissist, they're so good at manipulating and playing the victim to get that attention. That's the main reason. It's madness. It's not for any good cause or good reason. They just can't share the attention with anybody else and demand a sacrifice to support their godhood fantasy and that they're a hero and a savior and call all the shots. And they want to prove that to themselves, so they just use you as a sacrifice to prove that instead of dealing with the insecurity. Okay, guys, so also these malignant types love to hide behind authority and the moral high ground, and they will manipulate and plot and plan and strategize how to get you under a continual suffering in which if you complain about it, it makes you look crazy. So all the abuse is done with plausible deniability so that it can be blamed and denied and blamed on something else lesser than what's really going on. It's all the artful manipulation of hiding abuse in plain sight. And that is what they do as a pattern. We see these many different behaviors taking shape in the people around us who are perping, who are targeting. And they are without remorse or empathy or sympathy or any self-awareness at all. It is scary. There is nobody home. And that's why they don't take responsibility or accountability and never even feel bad. The only thing they feel is pleasure, and it's misplaced because it's based on the pain and the destruction of innocent people. Okay, so just the bottom line. This is what they do. And they will put you in the middle. They will set you up because they're competing over the attention and can't share it and have to eliminate you because your shine is too bright and, your gifts, your talents, and the favor of God is on you. And they don't like that because whatever they have done has been their best, and their best has failed at getting the reaction that they want, which is negative, which is to fulfill their false narrative and story that they've been telling other people about us our whole lives. So we've been isolated, we've been alone, we've had to suffer so many things because of the breakdown, collapse, and control game that the narcissist has been playing with our lives since we were young. And we just didn't know that someone in our own family could be so, dark and evil and perverse and reprobate concerning, calling evil good and good evil and putting light for darkness and darkness for light. These people don't need evidence. It's like, according to their own thinking, so it is. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if the outward world contradicts and the facts of reality contradict their fantasy delusion that they're pushing. And it just so happens that every delusion and fantasy they have is so grandiose. It just positions them to be the hero and the savior and the one in control, right? So every behavior is brought upon us to create that kind of dependency, to take you on a ride, and then by taking you on that ride and holding you hostage as they take you on the roller coaster ride, they take you up, take you down, take you up, take you down, and break you, and then feed off of you as you're, mystified by the intermittent reinforcement. That is like, the charm they use in order to buffalo you and bewitch you and continue to keep abusing you because of the confusion of, well, this person is like doing all these nice things that nobody's ever done for me. And then at the same time, they're also abusing you worse than anybody's ever abused you. And you're just like, and it starts to warp and break your mind. It's a form of mind control, and it's what parasites do to hijack your thinking. And it's the bottom line. So guys, like, just the narcissist loves to be a fake authority figure, and they love to gravitate towards authority figures, people in uniforms and the so-called quote unquote experts, because that gives them some position and standing and status just to be associated with it, because they're very shallow people that just are into image only and no content. They don't have any authenticity or genuine characteristics that exist in them that are not stolen or hijacked or just copied versions of the original, because there is nobody home. But these people, even our family members, they saw that there was something different about us, and they saw the spiritual gifts that we had at such a young age, and they almost as if they saw our inheritance that God was giving us and the blessing and the favor that would be on our lives, and tried to cut us off at the pass. That's what basically occurred. They were threatened and alarmed about the fact that God is real, and our lives became this test to our families, really, because we were used to test their hearts and to expose what was in their hearts, and not even trying. We didn't plan that. We didn't ask for that, but God placed us in these narcissistic type families, and literally just, we were their test. We were their way out, really. And they didn't see it, and they didn't take it. And no matter how many obvious things God did and arranged to disapprove of their hidden abuse that they'd been doing to us our whole lives, and just occupying all our time, energy, and money so we couldn't take care of ourselves. That's how much obsession and pressure was applied to us, to the point where the only result that could come about, and you could see it in the setups, was jail, institutions, or death. And that is what our family participated in, to try to take away the way out, so that under that kind of pain and pressure that they applied, we would give them what they wanted and fulfill their narrative. And the role that they cast for us, that was not us. No matter how bad they abused us, they couldn't steal what was authentically a part of us. And that is what they were mad about. And it's this favor that they think we don't deserve, that they deserve. They feel like they deserve it, even though they don't ever do any of the work to even try to better themselves or do anything to try to advance and grow and raise their, frequency rate, basically. They just remain in this low level vibrational state of anger and hatred and bitterness and infantile competition, and not being able to share the attention of anybody that's got the real deal. And especially if you got the real deal, they will move very quickly to sacrifice you because you're a threat to the attention. It's very simplistic thinking in which we've had to combat and deal with, guys. But the narcissist will always go around telling everybody you're mentally ill, and then set up the exact conditions in the situation and environment to get what they want, which is your bad reaction, to prove that their slander and lies about you are somehow valid. And it is premeditated. They go about to sacrifice you and justify it this way and rationalize it this way. And of course, all of this is done in a hidden way, playing both sides of the fence. All of it. So for many of us targeted individuals, we got two parallel things going on. We try to take 2 steps forward and we're trying to better ourselves, but then we've got these people competing with us, taking us 2 steps back, and it doesn't matter what it's over. It could be over fixing something in your place. It could be over fixing your car. It could be over, anything and everything. There they are infiltrating and using the system as a way to touch you, reach you, get a hold of you, and manage you. And whether it's shutting off your bank account, it doesn't really matter what it is, but they're always working to try to get a breakdown. And that's what I say all the time, because that's what they do. They use abuse and hide the abuse to try to get a breakdown so they can point the finger and join in together and point the finger, even your own family members, and say, see, we told you he was crazy. We told you he was mentally ill. And why? Because they don't want to repent and believe God. They saw what God did in our lives and how much he's changed us, just the shine and looking at him our whole lives, beholding his glory and the transformation that can come from looking away to Jesus. And that is what we've done. And they thought it was just a gimmick. They thought we were just in a fad, and they tested us all along the way, and we kept showing them, no, this isn't a fad. This is really God calling us. And this is what I was meant to do. This is my alignment with God and his purpose for me in my life, to get free from this forced dependency and this person and people in my life that did not approve of my advancement or success or development, because by doing so, it invalidates the persistent, consistent storyline and narrative, that you're mentally ill, you're crazy, you're so crazy, but you're succeeding, you're so crazy, but you're advancing. You're so crazy that every prediction you make is right way in advance before it even happens. And then they never come to you and say, man, everything you told me about was right and I should have listened to you, but I didn't. And I paid the consequence. But they can't admit that. They just double down and get more and more upset and angry at you for showing them how corrupt and evil and deluded and delusional and disconnected and disassociative they are. And that is what they are. They're not there. They're not there. That's why you can't reason with them or, get them to see hey, abusing me is not good. You probably shouldn't damage my property. You probably shouldn't, follow me and come and go with me to the stores every time I go. You probably shouldn't, make death threats all the time and, hold up, your hand like this when I'm driving by you, and 10 out of 10 people doing that to you. It's just you don't do anything, you don't say anything, you mind your own business, you're wearing shades, they can't see your eyes, so you'll pull up in a parking lot and dudes will roll in right in front of you and of course mean mug you right away, and not take their eyes off you. Then get out of the car and walk real close to your driver's side, and you're just sitting in the car okay, what's going on here? And, just looking down in your car and breaking those boundaries. That's part of this harassment and targeting. Always breaking the boundaries, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. It's all about breaking those boundaries and getting a reaction so they can label you and say that you are what they say you are, which is just a lie. The amount of pressure that's put on targeted individuals is so great. I can't even begin to explain to you that it demands all my attention to just stay alive, and every day just all my attention on God, and literally just abandoning myself to get to God in trust, because it is that much pressure, that consistent, that often, and it is a constant painful experience to modify and change outputs, to change behavior. And so I'm just saying this because family and friends, they don't love us. And that was the hardest thing to ever discover, that people like your own mother, they quit in the middle, they ghost, they vanish. They do not participate in loving and supporting you. They participate in going along with forwarding your calamity and breakdown and collapse. And whatever they've been promised and whatever they've been told, they're completely delusional. I don't even reason with my family because that's how far gone they are. There is no hope except for God does something in my prayers, answering my prayers for someone who is so lost and so angry inside and has been able to project that anger through artful, manipulative means and that wrath and hatred, by getting me to step into a painful situation, circumstance, or environment or relationship, ambush, surprise, attack, to produce the bad reactions in front of others so people would say, oh my gosh, you're right about your son. He's just this horrible monster. And you know what I mean? He's just this horrible person, and we need to eliminate his ability to make his own choices because we gotta keep things safe and we gotta save lives, baby. And that's what they do. That's what they do. But from a young age, I was put in the middle, and because my mom couldn't share the attention with my dad, and my dad obviously loved me at a time and paid attention to me, but that was a threat to my mother. And she would roll her eyes, shake her head, huff and puff, and get all mad just when he would pay attention to me just a little bit. Okay, so, but then the true trap comes when they set you up. But prior to doing that, they will work on one party or another. And so the slander, the lies started happening, to me. My mom was telling me, your dad, he's going to hit me, he's mad at me, he's all these things. And it's this delusional rehearsal and rivalry that's deliberately being created. But it's like this delusional rehearsal that the narcissist does, this paranoid rehearsal, totally confabulating because they need that victimhood, they need that attention to come alive. And so they just create it. And it doesn't even have to be real. It doesn't have to be something that actually happened. It's just total confabulation. So it's worse than lies because they're committed to fully committing to the lie and acting and performing as if, when the facts of reality show different. So there's a delusion, there's a breakaway, there's a disconnect. And the narcissist only can take a snapshot of the truth. And then they force you to relate to that inward snapshot of you and not you, and use abuse to conform you to the mold. And they don't ever look and say, maybe that I'm the wrong one for doing these things and not letting this person exist in an independent, autonomous way. Maybe, the tactics of sabotage and undermining and competition and, property damage and, all the other things that have been done over the years in this coordinated, organized way. You're never forgiven by the narcissist, even though, you don't need them to forgive you because you haven't done anything, but they never stop holding a grudge, is what I'm trying to say. And they are very punitive, and they keep tabs on every little offense, and they keep score all the time because their self-righteousness needs to be upheld at our expense. So that's why they keep score, and they just, are always transferring blame. It's very cowardly what they do, because they do wickedness and evil and hide it and then transfer the blame onto someone innocent. And God is like, no, you're not going to do that to my children. Like, you have to repent and change before judgment comes, before something worse comes, and already, family and friends, they don't see, the hand of God in terms of the protection and the supernatural deliverances that he has really displayed through me towards my family, who were like rabid dogs that couldn't be reasoned with because they had committed so much to these lies in their mind and this delusional story and fantasy, because it was so connected to their identity and who they became as a person all these years. So it was like, it was like breaking their core, having to admit that there was this fantasy that our family members were living under. And it was, I'm a victim, I'm a hero, I'm a savior. Those three things were always what the narcissist bounced back and forth in between. And there was really predictive behavior that we grew up watching, the sacrifice, the breakdown, like when the attention needed to be on you and all of a sudden your family's having a breakdown and forcing your attention onto them rather than, attending to whatever thing you had to do or service. It's all about competing with your attention over yourself even, and over your own life and over your own functionability even, they don't care. They just will keep the gas fully pressed, pedal to the metal, and they don't take the warning signs that they're hurting you and damaging you and offering you up, and that it's been years of them just using you as the fuel. And that's why they had the breakdown and the collapse and pursued you and hunted you and chased you and then made it look like, that's what you were doing to them. And it's all about the role reversal, accusing you of the very thing that they are guilty of. And they do that constantly. But so you might face a lot of tactics of abuse and control and manipulation in your life, but being a targeted individual is like on a whole other level of consistency and pressure, and it's way heavier than just narcissistic abuse, because it is like narcissistic abuse in the fact that there's so much triangulation and manipulation and coordination of third parties to be used as weapons against the target. And that is the main thing that I see in this parallel way. And the psychology is really the same. When you look at people you grew up with that were covert, malignant, sadistic narcissists, and the people that are persecuting you right now and hunting you all over the place. And so they have the same disposition and mentality and spirit, I would say. And it's like this pattern and model of behavior that you can clearly see in all of them, and they all do the same similar abuses and behaviors. So, there comes a certain point in time where you grow past their immaturity and you start realizing how infantile and how envious and jealous they are, because that's the only thing that drives these people and their insecurity. They don't want to fix their insecurity. They just want to maintain the illusion of sanity. And there is no sanity with these people that accuse us of being insane. But literally they're on like 7 different medications and all these other things, but yet they know that God has got special favor on us and protects us. And so they feel angry about the fact that we've escaped a lot of the things that they've done and they tried to convince us to do, but it damaged them. You know what I mean? And they still don't get it. They still won't be like, man, I am really, really a stubborn fool. Like, they won't say that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, guys? So but you might go driving and you might get a lot of vehicular harassment and people coming and going with you and aligning their cars with you, color sensitizing, and minus the color sensitizing, they will flow with you and time the flow and always be in a box around you wherever you go. So you leave the house, a red car will get in front of you, behind you, and on both sides of you. And what they like to do is control the flow and guide you on the freeway and guide you on the highway. Like, so that either you're driven off the road or they get really close to you. So, trying to manufacture an accident, things of that nature. It's all done deliberately and to terrorize you and to get you to react. And literally, they're very mad, immature people that do this, but they're coordinated and organized and mean business. And it's not a joke. Using a car as a weapon against a person is not a joke. When someone looks over at you and smirks at you and just cranks the wheel and drives their car right into you. And then afterwards you're like, what did you do that for? And they're just, I don't know, because they're beside themselves, hijacked puppets that are used to batter you. You know what I'm saying? And batter your property, because that stops you from, advancing and makes you more controllable. That's why. You know what I mean? Why would they damage property? Of course. But it makes you dependent. And then they can do whatever they want with you. And the whole goal is to isolate you and get you alone and get family and friends to believe all these lies about you. If not, they're participating at the root and core of the lies. You know what I'm saying, guys? And we're just in this weird reality wondering, wow, you know what I mean? I had no idea these people hated me this much, that they were willing to do all these things to me for years. I had no idea. I had no idea that people were spreading rumors about me and slandering me and gossiping about me and lying about me and obsessed with me. I just had no idea. And then I started seeing the symptoms of the competition game and breakdown game that was being played with my life. And, as soon as you start asserting boundaries, they start exposing themselves. It's very simple. Because they get desperate, because they're feeding off of you. So they get desperate. And you'll start to see the people that are desperate for their contact with you and trying to interact with you all the time. So you might go and drive and experience coming and going with you at the same time, no matter what time of the day you come and go. And it's always the same color cars. And they will eventually, within a matter of 5 minutes of you getting on the road, all of a sudden, a red car will pull out, another one, and another one. They just somehow always seem to get in a box around you driving. And they go really slow and slow down in front of you and really fast behind you to get as close as they can. And then the two cars will roll up on each side of you. And this is a repeated pattern. But what I'm going to say next is that they used to do this to me all the time. And I just had it happen to me today, as a matter of fact, at the grocery store. But they used to do this to me all the time. Gesturing to me is like all the time. They flick me off all the time. They just stand there and flick me off and like smirk and laugh and chuckle. They think it's funny. And it's so immature, it doesn't do anything but just make them look stupid and immature and desperate. And so basically what they do with me is when I drive, they wait for me and they come and go with me. And then this kill box, this kill grid is set up around the target, which is me. And I'm driving, and they're controlling the flow of my driving and where I go, what I do basically, and trying to cause an accident and trying to interrupt, the relaxing time and experience of driving and make it hostile all the time so that you quit doing it because it's just easier to control you. It's much easier, but nowadays it's like, probably not, you know what I mean? Because of the technology and the constant surveillance. But just, they interrupt your lane changes and stop you and block you and are parallel to you and keeping pace with you. And it doesn't matter if you turn right, left. They just restructure it around you again right away as soon as they can, whether they tail you, follow you, back up, make the turn with you, And usually when you hold your camera up, they back off. And this is what they love to do because it makes the target look hyper vigilant. And so, but they get beside you, drive next to you, and then they'll crack down their black windows that you can't see anybody in because they're so dark, but that's legal. No big deal, You can see the approval of these things by the repetitive nature of these things and how they're like a program. It's authorized. Get in these cars with dark windows and tinted windows, and I want you to drive up to this dude, encircle him all the time, and then crack your window down enough for me to see like this part of your face, and then just go like this to me all the time. That's what they do. They go like this. Instead of flicking me off, now it's just like this. They point at me like this, and then they go like this over and over and over. And like 10 out of 10 people when I'm driving will pull up alongside of me, and I could be on any side of town, it doesn't matter. And then in a matter of like 5-10 minutes, all of a sudden, I'll see a red car in my rearview mirror just weaving through all kinds of cars and get right up to me and stop at me, and position themselves right behind me. And, it is this organized, coordinated, vehicular harassment campaign that is done in a very organized, coordinated, deadly way to try to make it look like, you just got in an accident because, they're trying to eliminate you. And so they just make it look like an accident happened. And that's what they would do to me over 9 times in Denver, guys. 9 times in 1 year. No fault of my own. I have the insurance records to prove it. But all they would do is run their cars into me again and again and again, shattering the glass on my face again and again and again. And I never stopped. I never quit. I just kept marching forward and saying, no. I don't care how many times I'm going to have to be at the car shop. Like, I'm on God's time. And that's why I could have peace, because it's like, you can waste my time as much as you try and as much as you want. But in the end, I'm coming through this, like gold, basically. Okay, so whatever they do to try to hurt you and take away from you only seems to add strength and discernment and wisdom, and they hate that their plans and their tactics of abuse and control backfire on them. They hate that. And so they escalate the abuse to get a reaction from those of us that don't pay attention to them. And they are desperate for our attention. But in these cases, it has been 25 years of me getting in a car and being surrounded by red cars or white cars. They all are white or they're all red when they engage me in this way. And it is a deliberate, intentional engagement with tactics that are intermediate force tactics of abuse and control, military-style tactics of subversion and abuse and control, with no due process. And then just, you might survive, you might not, but they let you know all day, shut up, and point at you, and go like this to you all day long, because they're telling you to shut up, and they're telling you, if you keep talking, we're just going to kill you. And that's literally what they say and do. These intelligence services and like all the things that I've been breaking down, the churches are a part of it, the 501c3 nonprofit cult called a church in America, where these pastors should be ashamed of themselves. And they participate in all these federal programs and get federal subsidy money. So they have to go along with the agenda and the program. And we've seen this so much in world history. Like, even though history has been altered and changed and completely covered up, and we've been lied to about almost everything we think we know. And we just have to be humble enough to recognize, wow, since I was little, they have lied to me about everything. And that's just what we got to acknowledge and suspend the belief in things that we've come to learn about this world, about how it works, long enough to be open to something else to come in, which is the truth. And most people don't take the time even to do the research, even to look into things. So I'm shooting in the dark here, just trying to reach out to people that are targeted individuals and people that are experiencing family dynamics that are torturous and that are very persecutory and hidden and deceitful and manipulative. And you've got family members that are playing both sides of the fence and have no remorse or sympathy or conviction that that's wrong. They can lie to your face perfectly and not feel guilty and go to sleep at night. They have a seared conscience and they can't feel bad about the bad they do. Even a child would know that what our family has participated in is ugly and toxic and wrong and bad, and justice will come by the hand of God. Just, you reap what you sow, and the measure that you use, it'll be measured back to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, men will repay it into your lap. That is the spiritual law of the universe. And it doesn't matter if I violate it or other people violate it. There are consequences and results. We're way more powerful than you think. There are results and consequences for aligning yourself with the darkness and turning a blind eye and calling evil good and good evil, because you've turned that blind eye so much, living in denial, not wanting to face reality, not wanting to face the truth, and forcing other people under that fantasy at any cost, at any expense, at any price. And so our family members were the ones that involved the police in our lives from such a young age as a way to parent us. They weren't capable or competent. They never researched or took a care or concern on, how do I become a proper parent? How do I deal with different issues? They were more concerned with toys and entertainment, and they worked hard, so they felt like, this is my time. But there was a lot of immaturity and a lot of real life problems that, came upon our family. And yet when you bury your head in the sand and turn away from reality and the facts of reality, all that happens is those problems grow. And they grow so big deliberately by the narcissist. They want to increase the pressure and increase the ability to have a bigger breakdown so they can get a bigger reaction. So they never stop the landslide. They help to build it and make it bigger. And this is our complaint with our families. They participated in trying to eliminate us from their lives and from the lives of everyone else that we came into contact with for over 25 years. And they were nominating us from such a young age with this storyline that we're dangerously mentally ill and dangerous and violent, as they continue to put us in the middle and put us in situations to provoke others against us, playing the victim and lying and deceiving and playing the professional victim and then snickering behind the backs of those that they sent against you. You know, they stand behind the person that they've manipulated to hurt you. And these people think, oh, I gotta save this person because, man, you know, I gotta be a hero. So the narcissist malignant manipulator gets other people to step into that delusion that they have about themselves. And it's like this cookie cutter copy version clone that they make of themselves in others. They give you an opportunity to step into that delusion and participate in the fantasy. You see, so you start participating in the fantasy by saving someone else in some sick form of codependency that's all brought about by lies and deceit. There was no reason these people need to be saved, but yet they, in order to compete for the attention, need a sacrifice because they're threatened by that attention going on you. They can't handle it, so they have to get rid of you, offer you up. And when they offer you up, then they turn to, playing both sides of the fence and going to others and saying, you did it to them. You offered them up. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. You never get through to them. They're always mimicking, mocking, repeating what you say, talking over you, at you. It's complete madness with these people that wish our downfall and wish our harm. And yes, the closest people to us that should have loved us the most were our worst enemies and did us the most injury and the most harm that any person on this earth could have done. And it is a pain that we have to live with. Recognizing the truth, how God had to prepare us for years just to discover some of these lessons. It's incredible how long he prepared my heart to be able to stand in the truth when it was shown to me. In 25 years of being pursued, my resources, my place of living, involving me with the police, suggesting me to them, and not letting things that were in the past be in the past, but trying to make the past my present and then pretend like that's not what you're doing. And that is wrong to do to somebody as a family, as a whole, and for them not to acknowledge it and confess and admit and come to me and say, man, I'm really sorry for interfering with your life this way. I thought we were keeping things safe and saving lives. You know what I mean? But that's the excuse for them to be a hero and a savior because of the delusional disconnect and grandiosity and pride and arrogance that they just put themselves in that position in your life and feel privileged and entitled to even do so. They own you. You're their property. Of course they can do whatever they want with you. And it doesn't matter if they just use your life and put you in an environment to get one breakdown after the next, after the next, after the next, and you try to escape and they even break that down. So they can keep feeding on you and keep making you feel desperate. These people are corrupt. And I have had to cut off family. I have had to cut off friends and people in my past because of this competition game being played over my calling, over the purpose God has given me, over just everything that he wanted for me in my life and the healing he wanted to bring to me. And it wasn't for everyone. He got me alone and started working on my heart and started transforming me. And that is what these people avoid and don't want to look at. They don't want to see the darkness in themselves. And that's the problem. And without that, they can't own or take responsibility for all the negative, dark things that they find themselves doing and just keep denying and gaslighting and telling us that we're crazy for seeing it. And so there is the wheat and the tares. And we see totally different than these people. And they're not even close to being like us on any level. There's something missing about their humanity. And they cannot love. They cannot love. And it doesn't matter what the outward signs of love, their actions, because they can love bomb by disingenuous means and give you many good gifts and do all these things, but get ready for the rug to be pulled out from under your feet. Get ready to have the chair you're sitting on that they invite you to sit on kicked out from under you, because it's all about making you panic. They have been vampires over you emotionally, feeding on you with the most horrible forms of emotional abuse that you could ever even declare or even talk about. It's a shame to even talk about what they've done. That is the way I feel. Like, it's a shame to have to even, be the anchor in my family, breaking the generational curses and cutting off that which is false for the sake of the salvation of my whole family. If they just knew what was good for them and understood that it was God who is doing all these things. He is sovereign and supreme and over everything. And he orchestrates a lot of this for our growth and for our development. And it is this conformity that is very specific suffering that merges us with the way God wants us to be merged with him, in a very practical, real, subjective way, so that we start to take him as our relationship to everything that comes up in our condition, in our environment, in our history. It doesn't matter. We relate to it now in a totally different way. And this is what the enemy can't stand when they see this blessing of this freedom and that we have no condemnation on us. We are free, and they cannot understand how we figured it out and how we got this far, because all they did our whole lives was try to end us and do it quietly with plausible deniability, so that if we started to complain, we would look crazy. And that is also planned by them. So very methodical, very diabolical, evil abuse and a double standard, where they have the above the law status to do whatever they want to you and justify it. When you start reacting to it, which is by design, they want you to react. So when you start reacting to it, then all of a sudden you're the bad guy. And we're done with the game. We break the game. We're not a part of the game. We got out a long time ago. And because we got away, the narcissists didn't like that, because they're offended that they don't have abject control, psychopathic domination. That's the way they view you. That how dare you ever think that you can make your own choices and go do what is important for you to do to support yourself. I'm going to stop that, block that, cut that off, play both sides of the fence the whole time and just pretend like the damage that's caused is something that John has done to himself. So guys, it is 10 out of 10 going like this to me, pointing at me in parking lots. And when I drive all day long, doing that game, trying to intimidate, and it's like a death threat. We have to face this every day. Strange, unnatural, hostile situations that surround us as targeted individuals that are not natural. It would never happen if these people weren't doing what they're doing. And they just surround you and intimidate you and try to trip you up and engage you in a very hostile, corrupt, and evil way of very aggressive means. And when you react to their destruction of your car and your property and everything, then they call you a terrorist, or they say you're an extremist. Because how could you react to us running cars into you 9 times in 1 year? I mean, come on, man. I mean, everybody likes to sit at the car shop 24/7. I mean, that's what they did to me. So like that, driving a car becomes a burden and a hassle and an expense and a waste. And that is how they involve themselves and weaponize, your assets and those things that were meant for a blessing get turned into a curse because of these people. And God is sick of it. He wants us to be blessed. And these people just come in our lives and say, you know, I don't think you deserve that. And we're going to do everything we can to take it away from you because you don't deserve that, is what our enemies think like. And so they bring hell on us and destruction and breakdown and collapse and misery and set us up and invite us in and try to bring us even under more layers of broken to overwhelm us more and to get the bad reactions that they are vampires for. That's it. They only live for bad reactions, guys. Think about that. That is their life. Living to just get that kind of attention, to feel superior because that's how insecure they are. It's a deadly insecurity. It's a dangerous insecurity, is what I'm trying to say. And it shouldn't be pitied. It's something that demands abject responsibility and direct confrontation on their part. And they're just unwilling to face themselves. And so they drag us through the mud and make us, you know, the fuel factor to stimulate their fantasy. And when we contradict the narrative and the fantasy and the lies that they tell about us, well, it enrages them. And then they try to use many different setups and different types of painful situations to try to get you to give in. And as they're doing that, they're slandering you to third parties. And then as soon as they invite you in front of others that they've slandered you to, they're looking for that bad reaction from you and pushing for a breakdown. And you and I both know that that's all we've experienced our whole lives. People that get involved in our lives and are deceitful, acting fakes that only are performing and telling us what we want to hear. And then we discover the diabolical duality that's going on in these people. They cover it up, they conceal it, they lie, they hide it, they blame shift, they make excuses, they justify, they rationalize. And you can't do that with these kind of things that we've seen targeted individuals complain about. It is an evil that these people are participating in like no other time in world history. And I'm just here to tell you guys that, you know, all day long psychological warfare is done against you to intimidate you and make you shut up and just go back to sleep. And you will be threatened all day long, and people will go like this to you all day long and point at you and do this to you all day long or flick you off all day long. They do both, at least with me. And it's an all day long thing, guys. I just wanted to let you know. So, and it's over and over and over till you want to cry. That's basically what they do. For most people would break down and cry with the amount of frequency and the rate at which they do these things. Okay? And then the more they do it, the more you want to complain about it, and then the worse it makes you look. That's the whole goal. So, and of course, on the side of all this, there's broadcasting impulses and images to the brain on the neurological level and the synaptic level. So targeted individuals have been tortured inside and out. Inside and out. And, you know, we're just here to bring awareness and talk about the real deal. There are many fake targeted individuals online promising things that they shouldn't promise. But we're just getting real. We're just talking about who's involved, how they get involved. Many of us just speculate, you know, because none of us have the total answer here. We just know that there's something going on that's not natural and not normal, and we all are experiencing very similar tactics of abuse and control. And I like to just kind of show all angles of that. But one of the gaslighting tactics that they do to you is rolling up in a box around you, creating that box. I call it the kill box. And they float with you like a floating box of surveillance down the street or wherever you go. And then they start to escalate the interaction in a negative way by driving their cars at you, by doing stuff, cutting you off, doing stuff to try to get you in an accident. And you can't shake them. And they just keep doing it, hoping that you slip up, trying to make you slip up. And make you react while you're driving. This is what these people do, endangering your life, endangering the lives of others. And they don't care. They don't care at all. They think it's funny. They think it's cute when they run their car into you. And you think it's a joke. You think that I'm just making things up or sensationalizing. Dude, I'm telling you straight up, 9 times in 1 year, bam, 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 just nailing me, trying to hurt me, trying to injure me, trying to put me in a hospital, trying to shut me up, trying to get me under their thumb. And for no good reason, just because I don't like being tortured. Like literally, guys. I mean, who does, right? I'm forced to talk about these things because of what they do. Because they're not stopping, I can't stop. And that's just me telling the truth and exposing what's going on. The torture and the hidden abuse that is occurring in America is unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. And it is death by 1,000 cuts so that they can get away with doing it. It's a way to conceal the abuse over time and weaken you and weaken you and weaken you. And then eventually you're gone, you're dust. Okay? We're here to keep you safe and save lives. That has been the cry of all abusers across world history. And that is something that we have to remind ourselves about. I love you guys. Peace out.